Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm just going to keep an eye on the chat just to make sure that you can see me and you can hear me. We will only be able to see my little picture in the bottom corner, but hopefully you can see my slides. So just want to, okay, everyone's saying that they can see me and hear me, so that's great. So welcome everyone to the ASBAS session today, and today we're going to be talking about how to plan and create your blogging content. So my name is Sam McFarlane and I'm going to be with you this morning running you through this topic. I do welcome any questions that you have to come through. I will try and keep an eye on the chat as we're going through. But if I don't get to your question straight away, then I will come back and be checking in over the course of our session. So I'm just going to drive on to our next slide. So as you all know, ASBAS Digital Solutions, they are a digital advisory service providing direct education and mentorship from digital experts to assist Australian small businesses to build their digital capacity. They do this through a series of workshops. At the moment, we don't have any face-to-face workshops, obviously with everything else that is happening in the world, but we do have online workshops available. You also have access to 2 hours of tailored mentoring, so I really do encourage you, if you haven't already taken up that offer, to do so, because we have some really great mentors on board, and I'm sure that there'll be someone there that can help you as you need. So obviously there's also access to webinars like this and online materials. So as I mentioned, if you do get 2 hours of mentoring as part of your membership. If you've already used up the 2 hours, you can purchase an additional 2 hours of membership for a total cost of $25. And you can select from any of the mentors that are available online. So don't forget to go and check out who those mentors are, and make sure you go and book in for a session. So a little bit about me. I started my business, well, my name's Sam McFarlane. My business is Sam Says, and I help other small business owners with their social media, email newsletters, and blog management. I started my business 7 years ago, and prior to that, I worked in marketing roles for service-based firms. So in today's session, we are going to cover how to create a content plan for your blog, how to get the most out of your blog by repurposing your content, the different types of media you can use to create your blog content, and options and things to consider when outsourcing your blog content creation. So why plan? Creating a plan will basically enable you to stay focused on your goals, which can help improve your productivity in the long run. Planning your content in advance helps you to ensure each piece of content you publish will help you reach your marketing goals. So I think that that's probably just, you know, a couple of reasons why it's important to plan. But like with anything, you know, if we don't have a plan, then we don't really know where we're going. So having a plan can really just help you be a guide for you, essentially. So 5 steps to create a plan for your blog. Number 1, and possibly one of the most important things to do, is to define your goals. What do you want to get out of your blog? Do you want to position yourself as a thought leader in your space? Do you want to educate your audience on your products or services? What is it that you're trying to achieve, essentially, from creating a blog? Number 2 is to determine who your ideal customer is. So it's really important to know who your ideal customer is so that you can use the language that relates to them. the greater clarity that you have with regard to your ideal customer, the more focused and effective your blogging efforts are going to be. Number 3 is to create a list of topic ideas for your blog. Knowing your ideal customer in detail can really help determine what topics are of interest to them, so you can keep it very specific. Also consider any keywords that you might want to include for SEO purposes. If you're really stuck, consider frequently asked questions and consider creating content around those frequently asked questions, because if they're questions that you're commonly getting from people, then it's obviously something that they want to know from you. So content around that can be a really great way to start. Number 3 is to consider a list of topic ideas for your blog. So again, knowing your ideal customer in detail can help you determine what topics are of interest to them. Also consider any keywords that you might want to include for SEO purposes. If you're sorry, I've just repeated that. Number 4, to create a content calendar. As I said before, creating an editorial calendar for your blog will help you stay focused on your goals. And number 5 is to start to create your own content. I'm just going to check if we've got any questions in the chat so far. Yes, this will be available for replay. So anyone that can't stay on for the whole session, it will be sent to you later for replay and available for you to check in then. Just reading one of the questions. Did you mean create an interactive FAQ and then develop content for that? So look, you might have frequently asked questions already that are set up on your website, for example, but you might just want to deep dive a bit more into that particular question that people have, or there might be one question might lead on to, more and more questions from there. So I think when I'm saying, if you get stuck, think about frequently asked questions as ideas for blog topics. Yes, basically whatever people are coming to ask you on a regular basis, think about creating, or think about whether or not it will be relevant to have a specific blog that relates to that frequently asked question. And yeah, if you're not sure what questions your customers have because you're relatively new or you haven't had any questions, definitely consider creating a poll to ask people what they'd like to know more about. And you can create polls on social media sites like Instagram and Facebook just to get a bit more information from your audience. The slides, I believe, will be made available as well. So that should all be fine if anyone's looking for those after today's session. All right, I'm going to jump back into the slides now, but I will keep an eye on the chat. So do keep putting questions in if they come to you. So when creating your blog content strategy, make sure you consider things like why you are creating content in the first place. I think, we live in an online world predominantly now, and there is a lot of noise because every second person has a blog. So when you're thinking about the type of content that you're going to create, think about why you want to create a blog and really make sure that it's something that you're interested in, I guess, in the first place as well. Have a think about what content you might need. Think about what you want to be known for. Consider writing about things that you're genuinely interested in, because that way your passion is really going to shine through when you're writing, which will keep your readers a lot more interested in the long run. And how are you going to get the content in order to accomplish the goals? So again, we mentioned, maybe some frequently asked questions, going out there, asking your customers or potential clients what they might want to know from you. You might essentially need to go out there and do a little bit of research initially. So number one to creating your content calendar or your blogging content is, to really define your goals. So if you haven't watched Simon Sinek's TED Talk about the power of why, then I encourage you to go and do that. In the 20-minute TED Talk, Simon talks about why we need to lead from a place of why we are doing something and not how we're doing it or what we're doing. So if you go and type in Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K, and I think it'll be TED Talk on your why. He has done a few TED Talks, but that one in particular is really good. And I think he really nails why it's important to, to start with your why when we're in business. So go and check that out if you haven't already. So what do you want to achieve from creating a blog? Do you want to drive traffic to your shop or to your online store or to your website maybe? Do you want to increase sales or generate leads? Do you want to educate your prospects and customers about what it is that you do? Do you want to keep your customers up to date on what's going on with your business? Or are you wanting to build your brand? So any of these might relate to you, but have a bit of a think about what those objectives are. So when you're thinking about your objectives, I recommend choosing 2 to 3 for your blog content strategy, because that will help you to stay focused on your goals. For example, your primary goal might be to generate leads, and your secondary goal might be to educate prospects on what you do and building a brand around your name. So have a think about, no more than 2 to 3 objectives when you're coming up with your blog strategy. It's really important when we are thinking about goals to be specific. I think simply saying that you want to get more traffic just isn't enough. You need to really consider how much traffic you want and in what time frame. So consider increasing sales by 10% in 3 months is a lot more specific. It's also measurable. So after 3 months, you can go and review the amount of increased sales that you have, and then you can update your goal from there. So if you've reached that goal, then maybe you're going to the next 3 months increase it by 15%, and then the next 20% or whatever it might be. But then if you haven't increased sales, maybe it's only by 2%, then maybe you bring that goal down to 5%. But I think if you can be really specific, you can measure it, and that way you'll be able to get a lot more traction with everything. So once you've determined your why, you really need to think about the type of content that you need. In order to do that, you will need to undertake some target market research. So again, thinking about who our ideal client is and what they want to know from us. I'm just going to check the questions. Yes, Simon Sinek, The Power of Why. I think that's correct. S-I-N-E-K, and it's a TED Talk. He has also written a book, I believe. But yeah, go check that out. Coming back to my slides. So yes, your why. And number 2, you want to determine who your ideal customer is. So consider asking yourself questions like, where does my audience hang out online? For example, are they part of certain Facebook groups? Do they read other blogs? Are they on other social media platforms? Where are they? And what are they doing when they're when they're online. What is their biggest gripe at work? So maybe they aren't getting enough traffic to their website, or maybe they have a high staff turnover or something like that. They might be bored. Have a think about what it is that their problem is, or their pain point. What sort of content do they enjoy reading? Check Google Analytics if you have that set up on your website. You can go and check the Google Analytics for blogs that you've written and see which posts have the most views. If you haven't got Google Analytics set up on your website, it's probably something that I would recommend. It's not a specialty area of mine, but there will be other webinars, I believe, that all about that if you want to find out more about that. So next, the secret is really to find out what the underlying motivations of your target readers are, and then help them achieve those goals. So once you have an idea about who you're writing for, come up with a list of topic ideas and some keywords to target as well. And the keywords might be things that they're searching for regularly online. So topic ideas and keywords. Obviously, keywords are really important to ensure you rank well on search engines, because if you're not ranking well on the search engines, it will be really difficult for you to get consistent traffic to your website. It's basically going to be really difficult for people to find you online if you're not ranking well. So have a think about what those topics and keywords might be. So in order to find the keywords that you want to rank for, you want to look for keywords that have a high search volume with low competition. I would consider having a look at Neil Patel's free keyword tool to help generate keyword ideas. So that's Neil Patel, NeilPatel.com/UberSuggest is the website. So it's from Neil Patel, but it's UberSuggest. And if you go on there, it's free, and you can just basically do a search to see what the keywords are and, you know, the level of competition, I guess, essentially. Sometimes I think it's a good idea because we might think that people are searching for a particular keyword, but we then go and find out that there's a whole other bunch of keywords that are related to that particular keyword. So it is a good idea to go and have a look and not, I guess, just assume that the keyword that people are searching for. Number two, make sure that you're writing good blog content that includes your main keywords in the title, as well as body, headers, and the image alt text. So I know if you have, for example, a WordPress website, like the H1 is your heading one. So obviously you want, if it's relevant, to try and have a keyword in there. And also I think something that a lot of people forget when they're uploading images to their blog, to put in keywords in the image alt text, because that is searchable. So that's just a little tip to try and drive some more, I guess, to really just help with your SEO. When you're going to put your keywords in your blog, don't overdo it. I think we've probably all read blogs where we've seen that they're just keyword stuffed, and there's keywords in random places that just aren't relevant and they don't make sense when you're reading it. So don't just write a blog for Google. Write it for people as if they're going to read it, obviously, and thinking about, 3 to 7 times in an article is probably sufficient for a keyword, depending on the length of the actual blog. A blog post should contain at least 300 words, I would say. If you're looking to start out, aim for between 300 to 500 words if you can. Longer form blogs are around 1,200 to 2,000 words. So that's just something to have a think about if you are relatively new to blogging. Number 3 is to think about how you can try and get some backlinks to your article with your main keywords as the anchor text. So as an example, if your main keyword is gluten-free recipe, you'd be wanting to have that link to your site to be connected with the text gluten-free recipe. But you need to be careful that you don't overdo it, obviously. It needs to be relevant, but I would imagine that if you're running up a recipe, if that's your blog, then gluten-free recipe is completely relevant. So just try and think about that when you're creating your blogs and you're thinking about keywords and things like that. Do you only use one? I'm just going for the questions. So how many words do I suggest? So I'd say 300 to 500 for a blog, just for a normal blog. And I would say 1,200 to 2,000 for what they call a long form blog. So hopefully that clears that up for everyone. What's a backlink? A backlink is basically a link that you have. So say you've written a blog post on gluten-free pancakes, for example, and then you go and write another blog post about gluten-free recipes for Easter. I'm not sure. I'm just making stuff up now, but imagine that you do that. So a backlink, so you've got 2 blogs essentially. You've got the one about the gluten-free pancakes, and then you've got a blog about gluten-free recipes for Easter. So a backlink could mean that you copy the URL for the blog on the gluten-free pancakes and you have that link in your blog on gluten-free recipes for Easter. And then, so then essentially that a backlink means that it's a link that leads them back to another one of your blog posts. I'm not sure that or it could be, yeah, thanks Todd, it could be if you've got it coming from an external site. So if you can get someone to link to a blog post that you've written, then that helps with your reputability. So that can be a really good thing. How do you get that? How do you link others? Searchable site. How do you get your link on others? So I guess to get your link on others, other people's sites, it would be a matter of really just asking people. So, for example, I listened to a podcast one day, and it was about something that I decided I'd like to write a blog post about. And I wrote the blog post, and then I sent the podcast host an email just to say, do you mind if I reference your podcast in my blog? So that's a backlink, essentially. That's a link I'm linking in my blog to that podcast. And so for me, or for them, I guess, I'm the small fish here, I guess, but for the podcaster, if they were linking back to me, then that's going to be good to me. In the end, the podcaster actually featured my blog, which was lovely, and shared it for me. So that did give me, that did get me onto their site. So they had a link to my blog site. So that was a link, like a third-party link, essentially. So from the podcaster to my blog, and then on my blog, I had a link to their podcast. But that was just lucky. Like I basically just had to ask. But don't be afraid to ask. I know I wrote a blog once, and I was just writing about different tools that I use when creating social media posts, and I referenced Canva, but I didn't put a link in, and obviously their search terms picked that up, and they sent me an email and asked me if I would link it to their website, which of course I did. But that is just one way, I guess, of trying to get some other links, because if you've got links to other reputable websites, so like I had a link to Canva on my website, to Google, that seems like, because Canva is very reputable, it seems like my blog therefore goes up in the ranks of reputability because I've referenced a blog that is reputable, if that makes sense. Or I've got a question. What is considered high search volume and low competition? So basically that means that if you've got a keyword, I'm going to use it, gluten-free recipes again. If you go and enter that in and there are a lot of people searching for that, so say you've got, I don't know, 5 million searches on it, it's probably more, I'm pulling numbers out of here. But if you, so that's a high search volume versus not many people using it. So that would be low competition and not many people essentially, I guess, paying to use it as well in AdWords and things like that. So if you go and have a look at Uber Suggest, which is Neil Patel's free keyword tool, you can do a bit of a search and it will basically outline, it will give you that difference to show you what the high search volume and low competition, or, you know, if something is a low search volume with a high competition, then you don't want to use that because not many people are searching for it to start with, and then a lot of people, there's a lot of competition for it. I hope that explains that. Do you only use one keyword per blog post? Look, I would probably recommend focusing on one keyword per blog post, but that's totally up to you, I guess, where it's relevant. So yeah, it really depends on whether or not it's relevant. If yeah, I'm not sure if that answers your question at all, but I probably try and focus on one per blog post. Yeah. But if, you know, if it's relevant to have two, then maybe, you know, then pop that in. But I'd definitely focus on one, because within 300 to 500 words, you know, you can mention that a few times. If you've got multiple keywords in there and you're mentioning them over and over again, it's just going to, it might not read very well if you're focusing really on the keywords. Should you only ask for backlinks from sites with a higher DA than your site? Look, in an ideal world, yes, you would have backlinks from, you know, more reputable sites. I certainly wouldn't be having backlinks to, you know, any dodgy sites. I have seen where people have bought websites or had them done offshore and not necessarily done by someone reputable, and they've had a whole lot of backlinks entered in that are completely irrelevant, and it's basically just so that they can get that reputability over. So yeah, if you can get the higher traffic, more reputable websites to have backlinks, absolutely, that's your aim. But backlinks are good anyway, as long as it's, you know, a reputable website. Hopefully that has answered everyone's questions there. Okay, go back to my slides. Sorry, I'm flicking in between if it looks like I'm not sure where I'm going. So we've gone through those. So I think essentially try to target keywords, but don't necessarily let them stop you from writing writing about a relevant topic that you know that your audience will enjoy. So you know, if you find that there's a high search on a low competition keyword that is not really relevant and you're not really interested in, don't just write a blog post for the sake of it because you think you'll rank well. It's always much better to try and find those keywords if they relate to a good topic that you think your audience will be interested in. There's no point in writing content for content's sake, because I think that there's enough, noise out there online, and if your audience isn't enjoying the content that you're writing, then they're not going to be coming back for more. They'll just, they'll get distracted and they'll go to the next thing. So now we're going to look at how to create a blog calendar to help keep track and create the system to make sure your content is published on time. I love creating content calendars because it really does just mean that you have a bit of a plan about what you're going to write about. Obviously, that's not to say that if something does come up that's relevant for you to talk about, it doesn't mean that you can't talk about it because it's not in your content calendar. At the moment, in the stage that we're living in, it is pretty hard to plan ahead of time, and so a lot of people are just having to write a bit more on the fly at the moment with what's happening in the world. But most of the time, you can have a blog calendar that lasts, for 12 months. And if you're writing, one blog a month, for example, then you can go in and have that focus for each month. But as I said, if something comes up, it doesn't mean that you can't talk about that this particular month. It just pushes the other blog content out. But it still means that you've got that content calendar there. It's a bit of a guide, if nothing else, for you. So your blog calendar can be set up in something like an Excel spreadsheet. It can be as simple as that. It's whatever is going to be easy for you to use. And most people find Excel easy to use. I just saw another question come through. Mia, no, not every... you're right, not every blog you want to use the same keyword. You might have a handful of keywords that you use that you write about, and so each keyword can be a blog, and then that's when you get known for those particular keywords, those areas of expertise. And so they're almost like your content pillars. So essentially what you want to be known for. How often should you write a blog? I was trying to do one once a week. Look, if you can write a blog once a week, great. I think that would be what most people would want to be aiming for. I myself find once a month is more manageable for me, but you've got to do what's manageable for you. So if once a week is manageable, amazing, that'd be great. If once a fortnight is more manageable, then that's still okay. I think the most important thing to consider is doing it on a consistent basis. So, there's no point in if you start out and you think, oh, I've got a quiet month, I'm going to do one a week. And then, 3 months later, you get really busy and you don't blog for 2 months. And then, then you decide, oh, you need to blog again. So you bash out another one a week. It's inconsistent, and I think if people see that inconsistency, then it means that they're less likely to trust you, essentially, because they don't really know if you're still around, what's going on. I was getting weekly blogs, and now now I never know when a new blog's coming. So I'd say that if you can write a new blog once a week, amazing, and it's going to be relevant to your audience, then that'd be great. But think about what's realistic for you, where you're at. Hopefully that helps, Tanya. And I guess, if you do have a quieter time, like I know a lot of people at the moment, if they're not able to work as much as they can, then they're turning to writing more, just to really get that content written, and they won't necessarily publish it all now, but they'll hold it back and sort of have a bit of a buffer, I guess. And so that way, when you do get really busy, you know that you've still got a couple of blogs up your sleeve that you can publish out, so you don't go off the radar completely to your audience. So back to creating your blog calendar. As I said, a spreadsheet, you know, might be good enough for you where you're at. I use an Excel spreadsheet. I think it's, you know, it's great. For some of my clients, I use Google Sheets because we can both access them and, you know, update them. So that can be good if you're working with someone else. A Google Sheet, it can be really simple. It can be as complicated as you like. I will run through a couple of different options a bit later in the slides. But for now, things to think about, I guess, including in your blog calendar. I want to make sure that you include headings for things like the date that you want to publish the blog. So that might be, you know, the first Monday of the month. It might be every Tuesday at 9 a.m. It might be every second Wednesday. I don't know, whatever it is that you decide. Or you might have a specific date in there that you put in. But if you put the published date that you're aiming for, have a column for the post topic or the title of the blog, if you know that. And then just any details that you have about the content. So dot points are fine, whatever you have at this point. Just, I guess this is just really a repository for keeping everything together, all your ideas, so that you've got them all in one place rather than on 101 different pieces of paper scribbled around your desk. The status of the blog, so if it's started, if it's in draft format, if it's published. Some people might like to use a like a traffic light color system here. So green might be published, red might be hasn't started, and orange might be, you know, that you've started or it's in draft mode or whatever it might be. If that helps, you know, by all means use something like that. Make sure you put in the keyword that you want to focus on for that particular blog. And also probably, the content type. So if it's going to be short form or long form. Now, if you're only writing the short form blogs, which are the 300 to 500 words, then you might not need that column. But if you're doing a range, you know, some people say that the longer form blogs, if you 1,200 to 2,000 words, some people say that people were preferring them and that, you know, Google likes to see the more words, and so they rank them more highly. Look, whatever the algorithm's doing, it's, you know, it changes all the time, but whatever works for you, I think stick to that, whatever you're most comfortable with. Sometimes, you know, people will find that they've got a really long form blog that might be, you know, 3,000 words. So instead of having a really long form blog, they might split that up into 3 parts or 6 parts or something like that, so that then you've got, you know, 6 blogs really, but it's part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. That sort of thing. So that's something to consider as well. Some people like to play along with that series of blogs. So that's something to think about if you do have a blog idea, but it's quite a lengthy one. And I guess the other thing is it could become an ebook. Make sure that you have a call to action or an offer at the end. I think this is most important. You really need to tell your readers what you want them to do next. So we don't always do what we're told, but people are more likely to take that step, that thing that you want them to do, if you ask them to do it. So, you know, a call to action might be, do you want them to sign up for your newsletter? So, you know, you say, if you want more tips like this, don't forget to sign up to our newsletter. And here's a link. Or maybe you want people to book in for an initial conversation with you. Some people offer, you know, a free 15-minute chat or something like that. If that's what you want them to do, then lead them to that. It doesn't have to be overly salesy in your call to action. It can just really tell them the next step that you want them to take. or it might even be come and follow me on Instagram or Facebook, or come and join our Facebook group, or connect with me on LinkedIn, whatever it might be. I think it's always good to have that call to action at the end, just to let people know what you want them to do next. I'm going to go back into the chat and just check. I believe you will get copies of the slides. I'm certainly happy to make them available. Yeah, I believe that you will get copies of the slides as well as the replay. So that should all be fine. Right. So now that you've got your keywords, you've created a content calendar and you know who you're writing for, it's really time to start to create your content. You want to aim to create a well-written blog that you have researched and have a good understanding of. Use images from royalty-free stock photo websites such as unsplash.com. That's one of my favorites. There's also Pexels, Pexels.com. I heard another one the other day, Morgue Images or something like that. There are plenty of royalty-free stock photos out there, so go and do a bit of a search on that. Even Canva has some really great free images as well. They have some paid images, but they also have free ones, so make sure that you're using relevant images that are good quality, that aren't copyright, because I think, you know, you're just going to attract, you're going to be attractive to different types of audiences. So there's people that are more visual, there's people that prefer to read. So having some good quality images in there will just draw the people that like the images to your blog. So make sure you try and include them, again, where relevant. Now, if you've got a product-based business, you might have some images of your products in there, and that would be completely fine, obviously, to do that. Again, just make sure that they're good quality. And I guess if you are uploading to blogs, you don't want the image size to be really, really high. So I think if you keep it to around 500 KB is probably sufficient for web viewing. You don't want it to be any more than 1 megabyte, because if you imagine if you've got 5 images per blog and they're all 5 meg, that's really going to affect the speed of your website and the loading. So make sure that you don't upload really, really high resolution images. That's just a little tip there, I guess, for your website speed. So royalty-free images, I'll just check if everyone got that. Unsplash, yeah, unsplash.com. If you're promoting a particular product, can you use an image off their website, or will they still take you? I guess look, I think at the end of the day, if you're promoting the product, it's always good to ask them for their permission. If you can't do that, then always reference where you got the image from. I'm not au fait with the full copyright laws, but I would say it's always better to have permission if you can. Okay, it's always better to have permission if you can, or at least credit the source. Yeah, that would be my reference. And yes, Pixabay is another one, Pixabay. That is another one. And Steve's mentioned that the images should be 72 for digital content, so tiny image to reduce the file size. So there you go. That's a better tip than what I gave you. So thanks, Steve. All right, I'm coming back in. So make sure that you, I guess, format the blog for people that want to just skim read it as well. So, don't just have massive chunks of text. Make sure you have, use your headers, subheadings, bulleted lists, block quotes, bold, italic text, if it's relevant. Again, don't just put it in if it's not relevant, only if it's relevant. But yeah, keeping in mind there's different types of people out there that like different types of things. So trying to be attractive to everyone. Yeah, if you can try and format it in a way that is reasonable, then that's always going to be more visually appealing, I guess, and we're going to be less distracted. So I guess the benefits of having a plan, like with anything, having a written blog content strategy will keep you on track. But I also think it's going to save you a lot of time, because if you have that plan, you know what you're working towards. It's really going to help you be a lot more effective, and it really doesn't have to take that long to put together your strategy. You can do it over a couple of sessions if you want to sit down and have a bit of a think about it. But yeah, a few hours could be all that it takes to put together 12 months worth of content ideas for you. So planning tools, as I mentioned before, spreadsheets are great. Most of us have access to spreadsheets these days. If you want a project management tool, you can consider Monday or Asana. There's also Trello, and there are free versions of most of those programs. I think Monday's a paid version, but Asana and Trello, I believe there's free versions of those. Content management and marketing platforms like HubSpot. Again, there is a free version of HubSpot. It's going to be detailed it would be. But yeah, there's just a few ideas. You might have some others. Feel free to drop them in the chat if you... am I going to send you good templates? So do you, Mia, just to clarify, did you want me to send through a sample of a template? Would that be helpful for people? If that would be helpful, just say template, blog content calendar template or something like that, and I can arrange to get that to ASBAS, and then I can get that sent through, or I can make it available with the slides. That's certainly something that I'm happy to provide. Okay, great. And Kelsey started using Trello, so yeah, blog template, please. Okay, I will make sure that you can get a copy of a simple blog content calendar template. That is no problems at all. All right, so there are your planning tools, just some ideas there for you. Now, when you're trying to come up with ideas, it can be really quite daunting, and we can often sit in front of a blank spreadsheet or piece of paper or book or whatever we're doing, and nothing's coming in. So, listening out for what your customers are saying, having a look on other social media platforms, or having a look at Facebook groups and just seeing what sort of questions people are asking can be good. Curating tools like BuzzSumo can be really helpful. On BuzzSumo, you can go and type in what it is that you want, that you think people are asking, and then it will bring up a whole lot of suggestions for you, other articles that have been written on similar topics. Now, that is available as a free version. I believe you can have three searches in 24 hours or something like that. So that's an option that you can go and have a look at. Another one that I use more frequently now is Answer the Public, and that is another free platform that you can just jump onto online. And again, just type in what the topic is that you're thinking about writing a blog post on, and it will bring up hundreds of questions that people have typed into Google. So that could give you some prompts or some blog ideas. You'll be probably overwhelmed with ideas if you go somewhere like Answer the Public, because they really do give you a lot. But keep in mind, you know, if that's what people are searching for on Google, then that's probably what you should be writing about. Another simple way, sometimes if I'm a bit stuck, I'll just go into Google and I'll start typing what it is that I'm thinking of, and I'll just see, like, it'll list like the top 5 questions. Usually it'll start to predict the text that you're going to write, and it'll list like maybe the top 5 questions that people have related to those terms that you've put in. So sometimes that can even be sufficient to get you, you know, started, I guess. It's all about getting started. I think really it's getting started can be the hardest thing, and you can overanalyze things. So have a look at those tools. Google Alerts, sign up for Google Alerts, they're free. And again, you can put in the search terms, and then every time Google finds that online, they'll send you an update, and you can get them sent to you daily if you want to. So have a think about those. And again, yes, always asking your customers if you can, or going to have a look where your customers are hanging out and seeing what sort of questions that they're asking. Okay. So different content types to change up the blogging. So if you don't just want to be writing, so say if you're going to write a blog post every week but you're getting a bit bored, you know, think about a written tutorial or a how-to. These can be really great for people to follow along, and can be really quite popular if it relates to your particular I guess area of expertise. Video tutorials, people love video. Video can be a really great way of getting people to know you, and we all know that we like to do business with people that we know, like, and trust. So video, it's you know, the next best thing to meeting someone in person, I guess. You can really get to know someone so much more from a video and from listening to them talking versus just reading a blog post about them. Obviously, their personalities most of the time will come through in a blog post, but with a video, you know, I think you'll find that people will be more likely to feel like they know you from that. Think about writing a checklist, you know, a simple checklist, and that could even be an email or a downloadable that you have on your website. If you're wanting to build your email list, it might be a checklist that you have on there. People love checklists. Infographics, people love an infographic. Well, it's just another way of, I guess, displaying the information that you're putting together. Case studies are great. Case studies can be good using for a more detailed, I guess, testimonial from a client. So I think case studies can do really well. And again, that would help potentially with your third-party links, because if you write a case study on a particular client that you've worked with, and then you could ask them to share it on their website as well, you could link back to their website. That could be something to consider. And I think sometimes people really like to see, you know, the problem that you solved for someone, and a case study can really highlight that in quite a lot of detail. Inspirational stories, you know, work really well as well if they're relevant. Interviews. So again, this is a good opportunity for some other third-party links. So do an interview with another business owner that might share a similar audience, or you know, they don't work in a competing field necessarily, but they might share a similar audience to you. So perhaps a masseuse could interview an owner of a Pilates studio, for example, and they could, you know, talk about the benefits of having regular massages. I'm not sure, I'm just thinking of ideas, but you sort of get the idea from there. You know, they have a similar audience of people that they could potentially cross-promote to. So interviews can work really well. video blogs or a vlog again. You know, sometimes people will write a blog and then they'll just do a quick video about it just to let people know, and then, you know, they'll say to find out more, you know, read more in my latest blog or whatever it might be, but it might just give the top, you know, the snippet that people need to encourage them to read it. So that can be another option, but yeah, a video blog can be a good idea. If you've written a blog and it's done well, then maybe, and you think that your audience would like a video of it, then maybe just you essentially talking about what you wrote about in the blog is another way, and that's repurposing the content, which is always good to do. Some more content types, and then I'm going to check back in with the chat. So product reviews, if you can get people to do product reviews, great. Frequently asked questions, I mentioned this at the start. This can be a really great way just to kick things off if you're really stuck thinking about what it is that people most commonly come to ask you. Because sometimes if you've got a blog post written about one of those frequently asked questions, then that might really be all that's needed to get that person over the line. And we are spending more and more time online these days. You know, at all different hours, and even before the virus, I think, you know, people are up late, possibly checking things out online, doing their research, and if they can find their questions answered, then that's going to take them one step closer to pushing buy, or to, you know, to warming them up to engaging you for your services. So have a think about that. Showing some behind the scenes, you know, that can work really well if it's relevant. A quiz, people love learning more about themselves, so quizzes can do really well. Surveys and polls, again, you know, they can do well. Presentations and slideshows. So if you're on LinkedIn, you can use SlideShare, which essentially is like a PowerPoint version for LinkedIn, and they can do really well because, again, it's for the people that probably like, you know, bigger text, less words, but just that snapshot of things to get a good understanding of what it is, rather than sitting and reading through a long blog. It all just depends on your audience. Again, it comes back to your audience and what they like. I'm just going to check the chat. Okay, there's a little note about copyright. Don't use images, basically. It's still a copyright breach. Yeah, okay. So, yes, that's probably, thank you, Nan. That is a good explanation. Yeah, you should always get permission, or, yeah, don't use it if it's copyright. Infographic, thanks. Nan has explained that, great. If you do get an image from a royalty-free site, do you need to keep any evidence that it was indeed free? Look, I have heard that that is a really good idea, because I've heard that, and it hasn't happened to me, but, you know, on the grapevine, so take it for what you will. But, you know, on particular royalty-free stock image sites, the image has been free, and then they've changed it to be a paid one, and people apparently have been caught out. So it is a good idea to keep evidence if you can. Look, it's another step, but I guess if you want to be really safe, Iris, then yeah, that would probably be a good idea. Right, back to my slides. So now I've sort of talked about, I guess, the DIY version of doing your blogs and creating your blogging content calendar and things like that. But if you are thinking that it's all too much, or you don't have time, or you just don't want to do it, how do you find good help? So is it something that you can outsource? Absolutely. You know, you can't do it all. So I think if you're looking to outsource the copywriting potentially. Focus on the most valuable content when you're wanting to engage a professional if the money's a little bit tight, because again, small business owners, we don't have a huge cash flow, unfortunately. So we do have to watch things, but if it's not your area of expertise or it's something that you loathe, you probably won't do it. So that is where I would recommend getting some assistance. So how do you find good help? You can look for a copywriter. Copywriters can help with creating website content. They can write white papers. They can help with lead magnets, ads for Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, and any scripts that you might need, or even, blog. These people are expert writers, and a lot of the time they'll also be across SEO as well. So that can really be helpful. They're really good for creating core content that sells and establishing a particular tone. So if you're having trouble, if you don't know how to write the call to action, you don't know what the call to action might be, sometimes a copywriter can think of a really effective call to action for you. So that's something to think about if you are looking to outsource. So how do you want to assess them? How do you know if they're any good? I would always ask for samples. Look, if I'm looking for a copywriter, I'll ask people in my network, do they have a copywriter? Have they worked with someone? Is there someone that they recommend? And then, ask them for samples of things that they've written, because some copywriters have particular styles of writing and it might not necessarily be right for your particular audience. So, you want to make sure that you get the copywriter that writes for your audience. So definitely ask them for some samples, and, if there's some live links, even better, because then you can see a little bit more about who they're working for. Ask, for case studies, or maybe some testimonials from other clients as well. That can be a good gauge to assess their ability. These are just a couple of things to think about. And I guess write a good brief. So it's very important that you're very, very clear when you're writing a brief, because I guess at the end of the day, the copy is only going to be as good as the brief that the copywriter is given, because they're not mind readers. So, make sure that you list all your objectives. Provide any background that you have, or you might have some research or a particular point of view that you want to get across. Make sure you let them know. Make sure you detail what problem you're trying to solve within that particular blog or whatever it might be that they're writing. Let them know when you want that piece of copy written. Do you want it done in a week? Do you want it done in a month? Make sure you let them know, because then, if they're really busy, they can make sure that they can factor that in to amongst their other projects, because a lot of copywriters are freelancers, so they work for multiple clients as well. If you're happy to, give them permission to, to input themselves as well. But if you feel like you're the expert in that area, then, let them know that this is where you want to stick to. And also get a bit of a budget, I guess, as well. Find out, what their pricing is. And so when you get the quote from them, make sure that they've responded to all the different points from the brief and that they haven't left anything out. Make sure that it includes an itemised list of everything that is going to be delivered, so that there's no surprises. There's nothing that you're, I guess, expecting that you were going to get that you didn't. Make sure everything is listed so it's very, very clear what you're going to be getting. And if there's something in the quote that isn't there that you really want to make sure is, make sure you let them know before you start or before you engage them. because there might be an additional fee for that, or that might not be something that they do, for example. The quote should always detail the complete costs, even if it's a price range, and whatever the payment schedule is. So a lot of copywriters will, they might take a payment in stages. So they might have an initial fee, and then they might take the balance at the end. It all depends on how their business is set up. And include details like a number of reviews and things like that. So, are you able to get 50 alterations, or, is it only one? That's really important, because I think that you'll be a lot more thorough in reading the first draft if you know that you only get one cut at it, and every alternative draft is going to cost you more money. So make sure that that's included in there as well. When you're reviewing the content that they've provided, make sure you're thorough and also inquiring as well. Pay attention to the number of reviews, as I said. If they've provided something to you that's incomplete, then make sure that you let them know. That's just going to remove any confusion that might arise later. And be really, really pedantic, and document all your feedback in the one document that they're requesting you to. So they might just ask you to mark it up in Word or something like that. Whatever it is, whatever their process is, make sure that you really go through it with a very fine-tooth comb, because at the end of the day, I guess that they'll always put the onus back onto you once you approve that copy. Sorry, the barking dog. Yes, I do apologise. Working from home joys. All right. And now we're at questions. We've sort of seemed to fly through that. Hopefully it wasn't all too fast for everyone, but I'll just go through to make sure there's no questions that I haven't answered yet. I think I've answered them all, but if there's anything that you've put up that I haven't addressed, please do let me know. And then I guess if there's anything that's come to you along the way, then let me know. Major no-no for writing a blog. Wow. Bad grammar or bad spelling would be something that irks me a little bit when I see that. But I think also I wasn't having a dig at you either, Sharon. It's just that was just something that I thought of, but yeah, I think the grammar. Look, we've all read a really great piece of. We've all read really great blogs. We've all read really bad blogs. If we read a really bad blog, if it's badly written, if it's not engaging, we're not going to go back for more. It's as simple as that. So yeah, I guess, and that is all going to come down to, I guess, knowing who your audience is, who it is that you're talking to, because it's okay to repel people if they're not your ideal audience. You don't have to appeal to everyone, and that's not what it's about. So yeah, sometimes repelling people is good too, and that can be part of a strategy as well. So I guess yeah, checking spelling, checking grammar, yeah, making sure that they're relevant as well. Yeah, so Tanya, her audience is travel, so creating blogs with more photos great, you know, because people that are interested in travel are essentially going to be looking for photos, and little snippets of words about, you know, the top 10 places to go in Auckland, or the best bars to visit in Barcelona, or whatever it might be, the best walks to consider when traveling to South America. I don't know, whatever it might be. Definitely photos are going to be appealing to your audience. So yes, I would definitely encourage that. Do you need a separate space on your website to place your blog? Normally people will have a separate, you know, in the menu bar, sorry, they'll have, you know, blog or news. Some people call it news. Some people call it articles. So yes, normally people will have it as a separate section on their website, or as part of their menu. So they might have, you know, a home page, an about me section, a services section, or product section, or shop. And then they might have blog or news or article or whatever it might be. And then there might be a contact us page. It's probably, that's like a really simple menu. But yes, the majority of the time people will have a separate section on their website. Can you upload a document in your website media and then use a link to place it in several spots, e.g. MailChimp, Facebook post? Yes, so I guess, sorry Liz, that's coming to your question. So I would probably, rather than, when you say, can you upload a document in your website, do you mean like a PDF or something like that? Is that what you're referring to? And if so, I would probably recommend that you actually have the words typed into your website, because that way Google is going to be able to search it on those words. Whereas if it's just a PDF, it'll only be able to search on the title of the PDF. So I would say that I would always put it as you know, typed words into the website, if that's what your question was, and absolutely link that back to several places like MailChimp. So if your email newsletter, if you're using MailChimp, absolutely have a little snippet about what your latest blog post is about, and then have a link back, you know, click here to read more, or find out more tips like this here, whatever it might be. Definitely repurposing is the game. And look, I didn't talk a lot about repurposing, and I probably should just mention that a little bit now, because it is so important that if you are taking the time to write blogs, it is a time-consuming it is usually a time-consuming thing to be doing in your business. So if you are taking the time to do it, then please make sure that you can repurpose them. So repurposing can be, you know, it's already living on your website as a blog. You could use that text from the blog and copy and paste that over onto LinkedIn as an article. Now, all of a sudden, you've got a blog that lives on your website, and you've got an article that lives on LinkedIn. And you can also, say if you've got 5 tips for business success, I don't know, I just made that up. Each one of those tips, so there's 5 tips, each one of those tips could be 1 social media post. So all of a sudden, that one blog post is at least 5 social media posts. So you could create, you know, a branded meme on something like Canva with, you know, one of the tips, and then you could have a little bit more information in your actual post caption. So then that could all of a sudden be posted on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, you know, whatever social media platform you use. Yes, absolutely repurposing. So I love that. Now, so Liz, let me know if that is clear. Where do you post your blogs? So Liz is asking, are there any particularly good blog samples that you would recommend to view, and where do you post your blogs? Okay, blog samples. I'm gonna have to think about that one. I'm sorry, I can't think off the top of my head. Where do you post your blogs? usually you would post your blogs on the web, on your website. There are a lot of people out there that will ask for guest blogs as well, and that's another opportunity for you to write some content for another business owner that, you know, potentially has a similar target audience to use. And if you write a blog post for them, they would take that copy and put it onto their website. Usually, if you write a guest blog post, they don't want you to post the exact same copy onto your website. So you might have to tweak that a little bit, you know, change the heading, change some of the sentences and that sort of stuff. So it's a little bit different. Usually that's just for Google ranking purposes, but yeah, look out for opportunities like that for guest blog posts. I know that there's, you know, business sites like business that asks for guest blog writers all the time. Other sites like Flying Solo, they ask for people to write blog posts for them all the time too. So that can be an opportunity to do some guest writing and also get those backlinks, third-party links to your website as well. So hopefully that helps with that. My website platform is Joomla, yep, and its blog extension is pretty ordinary. Can you have a separate platform attached like WordPress? I do. I have worked with a client in the past that had their website platform as Joomla, and they had a separate platform which was attached through WordPress, and that was just for their blog. If you want to go and have a look at that website, it's motivatingmum.com. Now so you'll see there, and you probably won't really be able to see, but their website is on Joomla, and or at least it used to be when I was working with them, and then their blog was on WordPress. So they obviously set that up for a similar reason why you're saying that it's a bit ordinary. So yes, that is absolutely an option for you, and yes, you can do that. So that might be something to consider. Okay, Tanya, thank you. Would love more info about repurposing. Okay, hopefully I've answered about repurposing. Let me just think what else. So I've mentioned putting the blog onto LinkedIn as an article. I've mentioned splitting the blog up into multiple social media posts, which you can also then, if you want to go and create some branded memes or tiles, whatever you want to call them, over in canva.com. That's a really user-friendly platform. So feel free to go and do that, just so it's a bit more visually appealing. That is, what else did I say? So social media, yes. Email newsletter, yes. If you're going to be creating an email newsletter on a platform like MailChimp, then you can definitely repurpose your blog content on that. I've even heard people that will get a series of their blogs, and, you know, if they're all related, and then they'll create an actual ebook from a series of blogs. So that's potential as well. You know, just another way of repurposing, and, you know, ebook might appeal to someone more than blog does, and blog, you know, is appealing to different people where they're at, I guess. So that's LinkedIn. Better to copy the post or link as cool with a link to it. Okay, Andrea, so is it better to copy the post to LinkedIn as an article or to be a small blurb with a link to it? Okay, now what I've heard is that that LinkedIn don't really like you taking people off to external sites, so they prefer you to keep everyone on LinkedIn, just like Facebook can prefer you to keep everyone on Facebook. So if you have an external link to your website, for example, they say that LinkedIn are going to show it to less people. If that's true or not, I don't know. Maybe do a test. I will generally write a blog onto my website. I'll then go and copy and paste it over onto LinkedIn as an article. but there's nothing to say you couldn't, a few weeks later, you couldn't then go and have a little snippet and then send them back to your website and test and measure. The analytics for LinkedIn are pretty good. You can go into and have a bit of a look and see, you'll be able to gauge that way what works better for your audience. But usually I would recommend that you'd write it on LinkedIn. Sometimes you'll find that when people do a search for your name, LinkedIn, if you're on LinkedIn, will probably come up ahead of your website sometimes. So it can be really good for search engine optimization just to have the article written onto LinkedIn as well as your website. But test and measure, I'd say, because that I can say what I've heard, but yeah, it all just comes down to your audience, I guess, at the end of the day, and what they like. So have a bit of a play around with that, I guess. Sue, I love your idea of Throwback Thursday when you refer to old blog posts. Great idea, great way to really repurpose and bring those blog posts back to life, I guess. There's nothing wrong either with, if you've got a blog post that's done, that's a few years old, for example, but it's still completely relevant. There's nothing wrong with, if you want to bring it back in, republishing it at a later date. There's nothing wrong with doing that. You can go and add to it. It just brings it back up into your feed, I guess, when people are scrolling through the blogs that you've written. So, there's no reason why if it's evergreen content, which means that it pretty much lives forever, there's no time frame on it, then there's no reason why that can't be brought back into the feed. A lot of the time I'll repurpose my clients' blog posts. So, they've written blog posts and then they haven't had time to write some. So we might, go back into the archives and dig out some old ones that are still completely relevant, but maybe they were written a few years ago, but, bringing them back to life, essentially. Yeah, definitely. It's all about, I guess, repurposing and making the most of your time, because time's precious. And we can't spend all our time marketing, unfortunately. We do have to go and make sales. Obviously, marketing helps, but yes, there's other things that you've got to be doing in your business. So repurposing, definitely the way to go. I think. Do you know if it's a bad idea to have another domain name blog on the same hosting running as a blog which supports content from the original website on the same hosting? Matthew, I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't think I can answer that question. If anyone else can, do you know if it's a bad idea to have another domain name blog on the same hosting run as a blog which supports content for an original website on the same hosting? Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, Matthew. Here we go. Original page is Wine to a Business. Add-on domain is Barossa blog and has content that is relevant. Look, it's relevant. I don't necessarily see that would be a problem, but if someone else that's more qualified to answer can answer that, the way that I see it, it's relevant. So I don't see that would be a problem. Miranda's asking, how long is an ebook? An ebook is can be as long as you want, really. I've seen people call ebooks and they're 2 pages long. It might be 10 pages long. I don't think there's an exact science to it, but usually it's more than just a blog post, if that makes sense, Miranda. So that's why I guess I was sort of giving that example of some people turning, a handful of blogs into an ebook. I just thought of someone that I would recommend going and having a look at their blogs. Go and have a look at Darren Rouse from Pro Blogger. He's been blogging for years and is now an expert in the field, and he's an Australian, but he does have a global presence. He does go and speak at international venues on the topic of blogging. Go and check out his blog. He has some really great tips actually that you could just follow along with if it's something that you're getting started on. And the way that his blogs are written, I think they're just really easy to read. And I guess that's another thing when you're writing a blog, depending on who your audience is and what you're writing about, try and write it as if you're having a conversation with someone, because then that will, to the reader, that's going to flow a lot easier for them. Of course, it depends on your audience. If, you know, you're writing about technical stuff, then it might be hard to have that in a conversational way. But if it's relevant to write in a way that is conversational, then that is always appealing to people. And that's definitely what I would recommend. The advantage of, okay, Miranda's just clarifying. She wondered the advantage of an ebook over a long form blog. Sometimes people sell ebooks. I guess that's an advantage. But, and it can be, you know, with an ebook, you can basically have it as an opt-in, so you can collect people's email addresses. But the benefits of a long form blog that I see are that obviously the content is on your website. So that's going to be indexed by Google, and, you know, they'll basically be able to look at keywords within that and rank your site based on that. So whereas an ebook is a PDF usually that has to be downloaded. So they're the two differences. Yeah, I guess you probably have two different strategies. So with the ebook, you might want to increase signups. You might want to be making sure that you get everyone's. You might want to make sure that you get everyone's email addresses, because we're all encouraged to build our databases. So that's the benefit of an ebook, I guess. Whereas a strategy for writing a long form blog might be to be ranked higher in Google. So I think they both have different strategies. Not to say that a long form blog couldn't then become an ebook. That can absolutely happen, because again, some people are attracted to different types of things. So, you know, some people see ebook and they think, great, it's free, I'll download it. Or, you know, it might be, I think this was something that Darren Rouse actually did, was he compiled a whole lot of his most popular blogs that he'd written, and I think he used to blog once a week, at least once a week, and he compiled them into an ebook and sold it to people. Now, you could argue that all those blogs are available for free on his website, and why wouldn't you just go and look at them there? Maybe, but, you know, some people say, well, I don't have time to trawl through the website. I just want the top blogs, you know, in my hot little hands, and I'm happy to pay whatever the price was that he was asking. So they felt that he'd given them so much value for free that they were happy when he asked for the sale, that, you know, they were then happy to hand over their money. So I guess that's something to consider, is what the strategy is, behind, you know, what you're wanting to achieve. Kimberly, the spelling of Darren's surname is Darren Rouse, and I actually just realised I can actually just type this in for you. So it's Darren, D-A-R-R-E-N, Rouse, R-O-W-S-E, and the business is Pro Blogger. He actually has a podcast as well. Oh, sorry, I didn't send that correctly. Let me just do that again. Here we go. Yeah. Now, have I missed any questions? Is there anything else that I haven't covered off on? I can't see anything coming through, so I'm just going to ask you all if you can please make sure that at the end of this session you fill out your feedback form, and I'm going to paste a link into the chat for the feedback form. If you could please take your time to complete the feedback, that would be much appreciated. So that's linked to that there. Now I'm just going to jump back to my slides. And again, look, if you need additional mentoring, please, you know, if you have already used up your 2 hours, you are able to get another 2 hours for $25. But if you haven't used up your 2 hours, then please use up your 2 hours, because there are a whole host of professionals that are mentors that could really help you in your business. So make sure you go and check them out. Go and have a look on the ASBAS website to see who the mentors are. Obviously, the mentoring is done at the moment via Zoom, but that, you know, Zoom can still be recorded, so you can have that for a later date. So make sure you go and check out. If you haven't already had a mentor, or if you've already had a mentor but you'd like to have another 2 hours, then go and check that out. I highly encourage you to do that. All right, I think everyone is all okay. So with that, I'm going to say thank you so much for attending today. If you do have any questions, please do reach out. I will make sure that these slides are made available for you. I will make sure that there is a copy. I'll make sure that there is a copy of the slides and the recording sent through to you, and a copy of the content plan, which I had promised. If there's anything else, please do let me know. I'm more than happy to help you out. I hope it's been helpful. I hope I have inspired you to start blogging. Just go out there and give it a go. What can go wrong, really? It's only going to be on the website. If you hate it, if it really bombs, then just take it down. No harm done. But all the best. Reach out if you have any questions. And thanks, Emma. I will give the dog a little nudge for you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Bye.